Hey guys, in this video I want to talk a little bit about kind of my background a little bit that's not related to photography. I get a lot of questions about it, so I figured I'd do this video. So this somebody's cruising by, this somewhat got triggered by a couple of comments I got about you must be a Boy Scout or this and that and the thing. And actually I was not a Boy Scout. Kind of an interesting story there, I guess. That's totally sidetracked, but you know. When I was a kid, I was a Cub Scout, which if people don't know the different settings, you do that when you're younger, I guess. I don't know, maybe like in the third grade or something. And you do that for a little bit, and then there's like this middle stage called Webelow. I don't know if it's still like this, so you guys can tell me if it is. If people are in these things and you know what I'm talking about, or if I'm completely crazy. But anyways, they give you like this book, and you're supposed to spend like a year and a half with the group, like doing all these projects, and then once you do that, you can graduate to become a Boy Scout. Well, I got it like in like May, you know, and my family, we would spend the summers in New Hampshire in this like cottage. You know, my mother would take the summer off from work and spend that with the kids, and my father would come back and forth on the weekends. But anyways, so I'm in the woods of New Hampshire with no TV really and nothing to do. So I did the entire book, you know, that was supposed to take whatever amount of time in, you know, the 2 months or whatever that we were in the woods. And when I came back, to the den mother or whatever they call it, they basically called me a liar. They were like, you couldn't have possibly done it in that time. We don't believe you. You're just trying to cheat or whatever. And I was like, oh, really? You know, a few of the things I still had like the pieces from because you built certain things. So I was able to show it. So they're like, we'll count those, but the rest of it you have to do again. And at that point, I kind of was like, yeah, you're calling me a liar. And you're calling basically my mother a liar because she signed off on these things. So yeah, no Boy Scouts for me. You can go... Now, if people were in the Boy Scouts and you had a better, you know, results or experience than I did, then, you know, that's cool. It seems like a decent thing to be a part of. But I was not a Boy Scout for that reason. I didn't want to be part of an organization that would call me a liar, or to think I couldn't possibly do their little book worth of stuff in the summer. Because really it wasn't that complicated. It was like, figure out a map, do directions, blah, blah, blah. I mean, you know, it wasn't like you were building a house. So, anyways, I think a lot of where my kind of creativity mechanically comes from, because since I'm, you know, worked for a long time as a lighting guy and you know, helping people hang things and doing stuff, it comes from, you know, my parents and, you know, my father especially was, I always make the joke that I didn't know they had like plumbers and stuff until I got like to be an adult, because my father did everything, you know. And if there was something wrong in the house, put a hot water heater in, redo the electrical, you know, put in anything. He did it, you know, and we helped him because we were his, you know, free help. We were his apprentices. So, you know, and I guess his father before him taught him. So, you know, my sisters and my brother, you know, we learned how to do electrical. We learned how to do plumbing. We learned how to do, you know, carpentry. You know, we built sheds and we redid the roof and we, you know, wired the house. And in fact, did that summer place that I was talking about, it started out as like a little cottage that was, you know, you stay in the summer or whatever, and we completely winterized it throughout my youth. You know, every summer during the weeks there'd be projects we'd have to do. You know, we wired things in, we insulated the entire house, we put a new roof on it, we added a porch, you know, and these things taught me, you know, how to build and how to create and how to think, that and probably Legos, you know. So, and also my mother, you know, my mother was a great cook. She made everything from scratch. We used to, you know, you go to school and some of the kids would have like devil dogs or something, you know, from like Drake's. And we never got that when we were kids. My mother would bake stuff from scratch. And to me, it was like, oh, another cake that you baked, you know, and whatever. So I'd be trading it for devil dogs. But a lot of these kids didn't have that, you know. Yeah, their parents bought them the store-bought stuff, but they never had homemade. So I think I was a little bit... lucky and spoiled. So thanks, Mom and Dad. You know, you appreciate it a lot more when you're an adult, and you know, when you buy a devil dog at the store and you're like, man, if I had a cake that was made from scratch, I would much appreciate that. But yeah, and I think part of it is like the curious mind, right? I think you'd never want to stop looking for things. You know, like I've been doing this for a while, and I still watch like DIY videos. I was just at Home Depot getting some stuff for the studio, and like I saw some weird little things. I was like, oh, I could build something out of that. And I buy like little odds and ends. Actually, yesterday before we did the live stream, Seth was at Home Depot with me because we're doing some stuff in the studio. Maybe I'll do a video about that. And he's like, oh, and he runs over and starts buying all these little LED lights because he loves to do all this stuff mixing constant with flash. And like that, like childlike, not to say it's childlike, we both have it, curiosity, I think, is what will kind of push you forward, because it's easy enough to be like, okay, I can buy a Pro Photo light and I can buy a big softbox, 7-foot octagon or whatever, and put it up and it's going to look great. But there's a certain sense of pride and also just fun in being able to like take some weird thing and put it together and build like your own little light for a certain project. I've built Kino Flow lights, and I built this really cool softbox once. Moses has it. Moses, I hope you're still using it. I built it out of Brooklyn reflectors and a bunch of sockets, and I had 6, I think it was 100-watt light bulbs in it, and I put paper across it because I was doing this was before we used to stream them. It was from my on-set series. And I was showing people you could build stuff from scratch. We built it literally right there in front of the people. We all built it together, and we made this softbox, and we shot a scene with it. And it was pretty nice. I mean, it wasn't very portable. And in the end, I gave it to him because I wasn't going to carry it all the way back to my house. But it was definitely one of those things that I think was eye-opening for people who didn't necessarily think you could do that. Or also, there's this whole thought process that, like, if you're just starting or you don't have the budget or whatever, you got to do all this DIY stuff and make it happen. But the reality is that even large productions build stuff, because the simple 2x3 softbox that everybody can buy is going to produce basically the light from a 2x3 softbox that everybody can buy. So when you start customizing and tweaking things, that's how you start to gain ownership of it, right? You modify things to be part of your style. So for me, it's like, I can do this or that, and I can do, take these odd things. It doesn't have to do with it being cheap. Sometimes it's expensive to build stuff, all things considered, especially if you're going to use it once. Like I made these fluorescent lights because I was creating a shot with it. I was talking about this the other day, actually, and I built this whole thing up, and then I left the studio, and I forgot that the window was open, and they smashed on the ground. The thing cost me, in the end, I probably could have bought Kino Flow for it, but I was trying to see, and actually they were Kino Flow tubes. That's one of the things, too, I guess, not to go around the full circle here, is that if you're going to do stuff with constant light sources, weird, a nut just rolled onto my porch. Must be squirrels around, it's that time of year. If you're going to do stuff with constant light sources, you can buy like DIY type fixtures and then still put good bulbs in them. And that's what I used to do. I'd take Kino Flow bulbs and put them in these fixtures I'd build myself, so I'd still get good clean light out of it. And you can do your own kind of DIY softboxy thing and still put a good strobe in it, or a speed light, or do whatever, You don't have to, everything doesn't have to be on a lower budget. If you have the cash, you can always, get the better stuff. And I think that by doing it, it helps expand your mind as to what's possible, right? Because, oftentimes, and I say this a lot, is photography is problem solving. So if I'm playing, I like to call it that, or experimenting or messing around with stuff, I'm learning. Every time I do something, I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool, and that works like that, and that did this. And then sometimes it comes upon a job where it can actually save you because you need to do it. I remember once when I was a photo assistant, we were on this cruise. I think it was 30 days or something. And we were shooting all the new advertisements for a brand new cruise ship. So we got on the ship. We got on in Miami, because that's where I was living at the time, and we were going to make certain ports of call. And for whatever reason, our stuff didn't get on. Like it was like a bizarre thing. Like we didn't get the frames for our scrimmages. I can't remember exactly what happened. So we get out there and we're in the water now, we're in the middle of the ocean, and we don't have the frames for the scrimgems, but we had the fabrics. So we went to the engineering people or whatever, and we built our own frames out of PVC pipe, and we used the scrimgem fabric because we had them, and we were able to make it work until I think it was a week, we then went into Mexico, and one of the other assistants that didn't go on that trip was hired in Miami to get all the stuff, fly to Mexico with the stuff, wait for us, and then give it to us on the ship when we got down there, which was a whole other story in and of itself. But that's basically how we did it. We DIY'd PVC pipe together, and the idea that you can do that, when you need to, is really an important factor, I think, when you're working, because you don't always have everything you need. it would be great to have everything you need. And that's why some people like rental studios. Like being in New York, I'm kind of spoiled. A lot of times you show up at a studio, they have pretty much everything, right? So if you're there and all of a sudden you're like, man, it'd be nice to have, a two-stop dot, they're like, oh yeah, we have a dot and finger kit, and they'll rent it to you. So it's like, but when you're out in the field, that stuff's not necessarily available. So it's like, what else can cut the light like that without affecting? Oh, maybe a piece of screen, or maybe, maybe I'll cut this diffuser thing or whatever, and you can literally do the same thing in a pinch. Is it as good? Usually not, because the thing about professional equipment is that they're consistent, right? So yeah, you can use a piece of parchment paper to diffuse your light, but that parchment paper is not going to match the various diffusions that are available from, let's say, you're used to using 216 or something. It's not going to match that, The great thing about 216 is that you can go to any place and be like, hey, I need some 216, and I think it's 116 if you're a Roscoe person, and they give you the diffusion, and basically it's always the same. And I think that's the key there, right? So you've got this like balance between being kind of DIY and knowing how to do different things and understanding how things work, right? Oh, this is this size screw, so I can hook it to this, or these two pieces will go together to do that. That's important, right? But also it's important to know that there's a reason why they make the actual professional style. I mean, softboxes is a great example. Every time I do something about softboxes, people ask how easy they are to break down. I mean, the original concepts for softboxes, before like Shamira created the portable ones, was that they were these large things, kind of going back to what I built for the DIY thing. And nobody was carrying those things anyway. They were like in studios, So you either used hard lights or shot them through fabrics or whatever, and then somebody made a portable softbox. And in theory, all softboxes break down, right? They all kind of collapse, and they're all good like that. Some of them break down easier. If you build one yourself out of foam core, it's not going to break down, right? So if you have a studio, you could probably build one out of like very thin wood and like paint it and set it up and do it just like they used to and make an awesome softbox, multiple heads in the back. You can do all kinds of cool stuff with it, but you're not taking that anywhere. So, you think about that when you, actually one cool thing people were building a while back, I don't know if people still are, because lights have gotten so inexpensive, is they were building these like ring lights out of a bunch of tungsten bulbs, like you see it, you'll build these giant ring lights. Like those are super fun to make, and you have this really unique light that you can make, but you're not taking that thing anywhere. It's built on this big wooden frame and all these wires coming off of it. It's not like one of these like throwaway LED ones that you can buy now for like $100. So if you're going to be carrying it around, maybe that's a better option. It's probably going to break, but it's a better option. Not ring flash, obviously. I'm talking about ring light, which is kind of an interesting thing. A lot of people are going in that direction. Using LEDs and fluorescents for makeup, which is what a lot of people buy those rings for. In fact, I walked by the Max Cosmetic store and they had the exact same one that they sell at Adorama, the Flashpoint one, or whatever, whoever makes them, a million people make them, Savage and Newer and whatever, and they're all like around $100, whatever. At the Max store, it was like $250. I swear it was the exact same. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, yeah, it really depends on where you buy stuff, right? I mean, that really makes a difference. It's like trying to buy an Instax camera. If you go to Urban Outfitters, it's going to cost you twice as much as it is as a camera store because it's a different market, different people. So, yeah, I thought that was kind of fascinating too. So that was a complete sidebar. But anyways, so yeah, that's pretty much it. When I was a kid, I was put into a situation where I had to work doing electrical and mechanical stuff. We used to fix the lawnmowers ourselves. I used to fix my car myself. I never went to a mechanic. I put in brakes. I installed new clutches. There's a whole story about my father installing a sunroof in my sister's car with a chainsaw. It's a kind of a really interesting thing. But anyways, because I was forced to do that, I learned like the science of it, if you will. And because I wanted to know more, I played and I built things myself to learn. And I think that's what we have to do, right? I think if we're going to be creative, no matter what you're doing, you want to kind of go outside the box in a sense. Like if all you're doing is saying, I can just buy these things and set this up at this point and I'm going to take pictures, then you're probably only going to get so far. I think the people that really end up doing something, making a mark, maybe not money-wise, that's a whole other thing, but like doing something different, really breaking the trends, those people are the ones that experiment and try different things and are looking at things and it's like, oh wow, that's really cool that this does this, maybe I can do this. And you start messing with it, and sometimes that involves, having to wire things together and DIY stuff. So having those basic skills And honestly, it's not that difficult to do a lot of these things. You just have to understand the basics of it and take your time and understand that there's risks involved. Like, I mean, it might not work, so that money that you're spending is kind of like going to school money, right? It's like if you build a light, it doesn't do what you wanted it to do. Well, you learned that, and that cost you the $50. So anyways, looks like my neighbors are home. Get loading up the car. I'll let you go on that note. I don't know how bright it is behind me right now. Yeah, it's kind of bright. I threw a light up so you guys could see me because it's very bright out today. It's a winter day, but it's not that cold, so I figured I'd do one outside. You never know how often I'm going to be outside now. Thanksgiving holiday is coming up, guys, so if you celebrate such, enjoy the day. If you don't, enjoy the day anyways, right? And I'll talk to you next time. Train going by there.